Biomechanics is the study of living organisms and factors that act on these bodies. Biomechanics in a sporting context is often the study and analysis of sporting techniques. The information gained from this analysis is used to improve sporting performance and minimize the risk of injury. In this task, I will be looking at the biomechanical principles that apply to the basketball free throw, looking at the analysis of technique, biomechanical principles that increase velocity, and biomechanical principles that affect flight. I will be comparing the greatest free throw shooter of all time, Steph Curry, to my own performance. There are 3 phases in the basketball free throw. These phases are the preparation phase, the execution phase, and the follow-through phase. The preparation phase is crucial in the basketball free throw as it allows the athlete to focus their concentration and prepare them to shoot the ball accurately. The preparation phase begins with the referee handing the athlete the ball and the athlete squaring up with their body position facing the ring. Balance and stability are key principles involved in the preparation phase. Balance is the ability to maintain the line of gravity of a body within the base of support with minimal postural sway, while stability is the ability to return to a centered point after being moved. An object/body is balanced when the center of gravity is within its base of support. The base of support refers to the area beneath an object or person that includes every point of contact that the object or person makes with the supporting surface. In Curry's free throw technique, it is evident that he positions his feet shoulder width apart with his dominant side foot slightly closer to the basket. Curry making his feet shoulder width apart makes his base of support large, and a larger base of support improves his chances to remain balanced, allowing for a greater production of velocity to be achieved. The center of gravity is a hypothetical point around which the force of gravity appears to act. It is shown that Curry's center of gravity lies directly above the base of support, running through the middle of his body. The execution phase of a basketball free throw involves a series of coordinated movements performed by the shooter to successfully release the ball into the hoop. Isotonic submaximal force is delivered during the execution phase as the athlete needs the optimal amount of transmitted force and momentum to achieve accuracy. Newton's first law states that if a basketball is at rest, it will remain at rest unless acted on by an external force. These external forces are identified as Curry's muscles exerting force onto the ball. In accordance with Newton's third law of motion, that for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction, Curry's hips, knees, and ankles extend to produce force into the ground which moves momentum up. When Curry shoots, he drives his muscles into the ground, exerting force into it. Due to this force not being strong enough to move the ground, it prompts it to push back with an equal and opposite force. To achieve the highest possible accuracy, Curry usually produces a perfect level of force and momentum that's transferred onto the ball. This is evident in his free throw percentage of 90.9%. Optimal timing is critical with the force transferred through each of the segments listed on the force summation diagram. The sequence of force summation goes as following. Ankles and knees. Curry pushes off the ground with his legs, which generates a large amount of force and helps propel the ball towards the basket. Torso. Curry then moves into the shooting motion, requiring his torso to rotate towards the basket, which helps to generate further force and improve the accuracy of the shot. Shoulders, elbows, wrists, and fingers. Curry then extends his shooting arm towards the basket, generating force through the shoulder, elbow, wrist, and fingers as he releases the ball at the peak of his shooting motion. These controlled and efficient movements allow for the release of Curry's ball to gain optimal force and accuracy due to the correct timing and sequence. The human body has numerous levers that help increase motion and force during the execution phase. A lever is a simple machine that consists of a rigid object such as a rod or a beam that rotates around a fixed point called the fulcrum. Curry's technique involves a third-class lever, this elbow being the fulcrum, his effort being the tricep and forearm, and the load in the hands, the bowl. The third-class lever allows Curry to exert maximal force with minimal effort, enabling him to consistently deliver accurate shots even under pressure. The follow-through phase in a basketball free throw is the continuation of motion before and after releasing the ball. The angle of release is a main contributor to the horizontal distance that the basketball achieves. An incorrect angle of release during the basketball free throw shot will manipulate the angle at which the basketball enters the ring and therefore decreases its accuracy. The ideal angle of release in an athlete that is 6'2" in a free throw is 50.4 degrees. Curry releases with a higher launch angle than average. As shown, Curry is shooting with a 58.1 degrees launch angle. This means Curry prefers a larger target rather than a slow-moving ball as it nears the rim. The higher the launch angle, the larger the target area of the rim. In a free throw, the basketball is the projectile that flies once released and follows a predetermined parabolic path only affected by gravity and air resistance. Gravity is an external force that attracts objects toward each other, and in this instance pulls the ball towards the ground. As the basketball is released from Curry's fingers and follows the predetermined parabolic path, the force of gravity decelerates the ball until it reaches its apex. As the ball begins to fall, it then accelerates again due to the force of gravity pulling the basketball back towards the Earth's surface at a rate of 9.8 meters per second squared. Angular motion plays an important role in the mechanics of a free throw shot, as when a player releases the ball, it undergoes both translational motion and angular motion. Angular motion on the ball affects its trajectory and spin, which in turn can affect the accuracy and consistency of the shot. Air resistance also has a noticeable effect on the flight of a projectile during a free throw shot. As the basketball travels through the air, it encounters air that causes a resistance force, slowing down the ball and altering its trajectory. Air resistance and gravity also generate backspin. The amount of spin on a basketball during a free throw affects its flight, as a ball with backspin will tend to stay in the air longer, while a ball with topspin will tend to drop faster. This is due to something called the Magnus effect. Whenever a projectile spins through the air, it experiences a Magnus force due to the friction between the air and the projectile's surface. This force is found perpendicular to the spin axis. If the projectile has topspin on it, the force is downwards, and if the projectile has backspin on it, the force is upwards. In our case with the basketball, it has backspin. Therefore, this spin creates a difference in air pressure on the top and bottom of the ball, which ultimately affects the ball's lift, and the Magnus force helps propel the ball upwards. After analysing the technique used by NBA player Steph Curry, I decided to take a free throw shot in order to compare the both identical and different principles used by Steph Curry and myself. In the preparation phase, it is evident that I positioned my feet shoulder width apart with my dominant side foot slightly close to the basket, just like Curry's. This technique helps to strengthen the athlete's base of support, meaning it's a fundamental strategy to become more stable. Both Curry and I employ this strategy in our technique in order to maintain stability throughout the entirety of the shot and pass momentum successfully through the kinetic chain. In accordance with Newton's third law of motion, that for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction, Curry's hips, knees and ankles extend to produce force off the ground, which moves momentum up and prompts the body to push back with an equal and opposite force. This is also shown in my free throw routine, as my knees and ankles also extend, which allows momentum to move in the upwards direction. Looking at my elbow in my technique, it is shown that my shooting arm elbow flares out to the side majorly. This impacts the overall accuracy as well as the amount of force generated from my arm. Due to the force from my arms being diminished from my flared elbow, it makes my knees have to bend more, making my body more unstable in the execution phase. While looking at Curry's elbow, it is clear that he tucks his elbow in to allow for optimal force and accuracy in the execution phase. Looking at my force summation diagram, it is clear that not all of my movements are timed to perfection like Curry's. Ankles and knees, I push off the ground with my legs, which generates a large amount of force and helps propel the ball towards the basket. However, compared to Curry, I have to bend my knees a lot more due to having to generate more force due to my bad technique. Torso, I then move to the shooting motion, requiring my torso to face the basket, which helps me to generate further force and help improve accuracy of my shot. Shoulders, elbow, wrist and fingers. I then extend my shooting arm too early towards the basket. Looking at Curry's technique, he waits until his knees are almost fully extended before releasing the ball. However, in my technique, I still shoot the ball with my knees bent. If I were to wait until my knees were almost fully extended like Curry's, I would be able to generate more momentum onto the ball. Follow through. My follow through shows that my shooting wrists move horizontally after I've shot the ball, which means that the ball isn't being channeled in the direction of the target, impacting accuracy. The height of both athletes must usually be taken into account, but however, both Steph Curry and I are both 6'2". However, the angle of release must be taken into account. As shown, Curry releases the ball with a 58.1 degree angle, whilst I release the ball with a 66 degree angle. The higher the angle of launch allows my ball to have a higher apex, which requires more force and momentum but allows the target size to increase.